Hi there, and welcome to Grey Muzzle Geekery for the week of May 6, 2019. Yay! I'm your host, Dusty Red, and with me as always,
Dusty White.
And we'll get right into this week's news. So in the latest trend of review bombs, the game Rocket League has been purchased by Epic Games, leaving a lot of Steam users worried about the game's exclusivity. Wow, that was a good one. Steam stepped in, though, to reassure that the game will be available still on Steam and the Epic's Game Store. However, that did not stop reviewers from giving the game Rocket League negative reviews.
Pokemon releases Beanie Babies like plushies in the U.S.
Oh, they're going to be worth something someday, right?
I have a feeling it's coming along with Detective Pikachu.
Pika, pika, pika. So streaming service Epix is going to try its hand at everyone's favorite butler, and no, not Jeffrey, but Alfred Pennyworth and his life before Bruce Wayne. The series premiere will be July 28, 2019.
Speaking of TV, Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 1 was the most in-demand TV premiere according to Guinness World Record.
And we have in the movies, so a man's year-long quest to pay back a troll who spoiled Infinity War comes to a beautiful fruition. The story goes that he kept the name of this troll and made friends with him, air quote, friends with him, and stayed, like, they talked about things for a whole year. And then finally, when he went to go see Endgame, asked him, hey, did you see Endgame? And the guy's like, no, and immediately sent spoilers and pictures from the theater and everything to ruin it for him, to which the troll replied, I thought we were friends.
Oh.
And the new spoiler went, no, we were never friends. I had baited you this long.
Wow.
I personally respect that kind of...
Talk about commitment.
I love that kind of commitment.
Long con. And then speaking and continuing in-game movies, as of today, date 5/5/2019.
Cinco de Drinko!
Avengers Endgame has officially passed 2.2 billion. Yes, that's B.
With a B.
Billion.
Woo.
In only its second weekend in the theater, becoming the fastest film to reach that level.
And what next up was Avatar?
Avatar and Titanic.
And even Avatar took 47 days to get to 2 billion. So congratulations on Marvel Studios just raking in the dough. And speaking of things owned by Disney... So, unfortunately, we have to bring up the news with the Grey Muzzle Graveyard. So, unfortunately, Peter Mayhew has passed away at the age of 74 on April 30, 2019. He was obviously best known for his role as Chewbacca. However, he also wrote 2 children's books that were stressing anti-bullying and that being different is a strength, not a weakness. You can actually find those 2 books. They're called Growing Up Giant and My Favorite Giant. So while we all know Mr. Mayhew for his role as Chewbacca and even as being a Wookiee advisor for later movies as well, he did promote other means of, hey, I'm different and it's awesome. So we'll miss you, Mr. Mayhew.
Cheers.
Cheers, Mr. Mayhew.
This one actually hits pretty close to home for me because my dad was a huge Chewbacca fan to the point of my first dog, or technically our second dog, but my first dog that I remember was a little Yorkie named Chewbacca.
Named Chewbacca? I didn't name him Chewie?
Yep, named Chewie.
It's common in Latino families as well to name him Chewie, but for a different reason. But, yes.
No, he was a huge Star Wars fan and a huge Chewbacca fan, and this one would have hit home with my dad, so...
All right. That's, again, we'll miss you, Mr. Mayhew, and thank you for all the smiles you brought through all the years and all the Star Wars fans. So
and if I could make a Wookiee noise, I'd insert it here, but I can't.
Well, hang on. Just open your mouth and I'll do post-editing later. The laugh is perfect. I'm going to auto-tune that Wookiee, that laugh, and you'll be Dusty White's Wookiee laugh. Still fighting this little cough. All right. So we obviously just finished a weekend at Alliance South Michigan during their Kalinthas Campaign. And I do need to say for our listeners out here that Alliance South Michigan does have a unique take with how they handle their game, where to stave off burnout, which is a legitimate thing that people are running a game 24/7, or not 24/7, but constantly running your game, you start to get burnt out on your own stuff. So, the Kalinthas Campaign is, I don't want to say secondary, because you want to get away from the notion of primary and secondary.
Right.
But for all intents and purposes, they are the alternate campaign or a secondary campaign or the alternate, 1A and 1B or A and 1 campaign run by 3 other players that have stepped up and to help ease the burden off of the primary chapter owners of their game.
Because you always got to think of it as when you're running a LARP, you want to run multiple weekends. You don't want to run only 3 events or 4 events. You want to run a maximum events on the months that are prime. So your early fall, beginning of spring. Again, hot events are dog shit and nobody likes them.
Also cold events also become limiting as well. I mean, we did do a one day that was at a VFW hall because they have heat.
Right.
And I'm a tiny person that likes heat.
So the stepping up of the secondary plot team, and again, we mean that in the absolute respect of they are players that decided to, again, ease the burden on the owners because it is a lot to run 6 or 7 events a year. As somebody that has done it, it's a lot.
And they want to play too.
Yeah.
As owners, you want to play your characters, be it your primary or secondary characters, anything else. You do want to,
and you also want to play with your players.
Right.
That's another thing.
It does build good PR to have your, again, primary squad or your chapter owners build PR by playing with it. You can also see I also imagine you get a different perspective of the game as well. Mm-hmm. But you've run plot, I've run plot. You've run it more recently than I, admittedly. You will get to see how your players are doing when you're on the other side of it and what your plot team is doing as well. What do they expect from their players? Obviously from your Dragonreach campaign and then your Kalinthas campaign, you're going to have different viewpoints on how the game should be run, how it should go in one direction or another, or even how, as players gone plot, how they react to stressful situations.
Oh, very true.
When you have, your high-level players roll up and say, hey, we want to do this, how do they, as players, now plot, handle that?
Very
and
true.
Obviously the Dragonreach can't, these guys have been running this game for near a decade. So they have more experience in handling a variety of things. And that's not even counting the fact that they've been players for 20 plus years.
Right.
So they've seen it all. I'm sure there's a jaded level of sure, we've seen everything. You can obviously do your own spin on it and everything's going to be different. It's like being in the comedy world. Everything has been made fun of in some way. How do you put your spin on that joke?
Okay.
How do you make your spin on
how do you make it unique?
My drunken dad joke, how do you make that? Or my, trying to think of, I got Titus in the head right now for some reason. But how do you take these jokes that are tropes in some way and make them your own? And make it and if you notice.
So your mod tropes, your adventure tropes.
Yeah.
Things.
Oh, hey, we're going to go fight, Schmecky number 672, but how is it different from the last Schmecky 672 that we fought a year ago or 3 years ago or something? Leading into the weekend, undead is the big trope that we say undead is easy in the sense of writing storylines for.
Let me clarify by saying that, because I realized I might have insulted a couple of people by saying that undead are easy. Undead, especially with the new rule set, the new rollout of 2.0 Alliance rules, right. Undead aren't easy to fight.
They're stat-wise, they're tough, and they're varied, which is really exciting.
Yes.
Because we're also used to another game to where, oh, look, it's an undead, he's got X number of hit points, he's immune to 70% of your rules because he doesn't sleep, he doesn't get poisoned, he doesn't get a waylay, he doesn't get all these other abilities.
It's either spell him down or beat him down.
Yeah, beat him down or spell him down. Have a nice day.
Yeah. So undead are not easy to fight. So, like I said, with the 2.0 rules change, undead are not easy to fight. However, undead do not tend to cause PC strife, player character strife. Undead are the overall uniter of the town unifier, because everybody likes killing undead. There's no, unless you're trying to be Shady McShaderson, and if you're being outwardly being open about, hey, I don't want to kill these undead, I want to be I want to lead them.
There's far less gray area.
Yeah, it is undead. Okay, everybody can agree undead are bad. Let's go kill them. There's not maybe we should talk about it. Is it part of the elemental war?
Sometimes you can get deeper plot lines from unique undead that are hey, I'm an undead that
Didn't mean to be undead.
Didn't mean to be, or I chose this path to do something else, and hey, if you help me with this, I'll end my undeath. Like, I have a personal vendetta to do. But that's still rare.
They're few and far behind, far between.
It's rare you're going to find a lich. You'd be like, hey, I'll stop being a lich if y'all kill this guy I've been hunting down the last 100 years. Like, I've done that. I've been on that adventure where a lich rolls in, and he's like, look, don't kill me. This is why I'm a lich. I want revenge against this guy. Right. Y'all kill that guy. I'll stop being a lich.
Right.
And it ended that way. Hey, we killed the guy. The lich is like, sure, fix me, do your magic. Boom, destroy the magic on me. I'm back to a normal person. Thank you. Sorry, I chose a bad path, but I thought I can handle this. Blah, blah, redemption, hug, and everybody pets a puppy at the end. Like, we get it. But that's still a rare instance.
So this past weekend, it was undead, and I think it was a good time to do it because of the 2.0 changes. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, for me and my personal understanding, or at least once out of a plot perspective, it was okay. Undead. There is no greater story behind it. It was just, hey, we ended up on an island in Kalinthas that is called Crypt because it is just a giant crypt,
right?
And it was okay. These undead need to be killed. That was really it. End of story. And I just, for me personally, it was okay. Let's play. It was more let's see where our skills go and fight than it was okay. Why? Let's find out why.
What did you feel the difference then? Because we literally got back from another SoMi event that was an undead weekend as well.
Oh, that's true.
So what do you feel is the difference? Like, because we've now done back-to-back South Michigan events where
that were heavy undead.
Excuse me, I still got this cough that won't go away. I know, go see a doctor, Dusty. And I got good coverage, but I gotta go sit in a doctor's. I know, I'm whining about nothing. Anyway,
this was your health insurance corner.
Shut up. So what is the difference between having one chapter, we just did an undead weekend, and now we go to another chapter that's also running an undead weekend?
All same chapter.
Same chapter, fair. Different. Same chapter, different plot teams. How do you think it was handled differently? What is the pros and cons? Do you feel that something was lacking, or do you feel that something was beneficiary? Like, what's the vibe?
I feel the undead from this past weekend, so the Kalinthas undead was heavier stats. Okay. Because they were illusions or photocopies of greater undead.
Do we think that is also affected by the average player level being shifted?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, you got to think our player level the first weekend for the Dragonreach plot team was, I think, 15.
Yeah, anywhere from 15 to 20, where now all of a sudden we roll into the Kalinthas where the staff...
PCing. Right, PCing.
Now we have
your owners are PCing, so they're on a higher end scale.
You're going to have a higher APL. So us being lower level in this game sees that dramatic effect. We see whoa, here comes a bunch of abilities that had us pinned against the ropes early on Friday night.
Yeah, very much. It's been a long time as a veteran player that I've been in a situation where... Now, mind you, I do, as Dusty White in Alliance, only have enough abilities to have one life spell, or enough experience to have one life spell. I do not ever have that problem, and haven't had that problem in several years playing Nero, but within 5 minutes I had 0 life spells. Right. And it is a resource shock, almost, to be aware within 10 minutes of lay on being called or game on being like, oh, we are in serious mode now.
Right. We're in a little bit deep doo-doo.
And the plot team did a really good job of ramping. I shouldn't even say ramping, just starting at 60.
So
starting at 11, I guess.
So do we think so? And I guess that's one of my critiques is I was a little surprised to see not much ramp. It was go. Here we are, because it becomes interesting when, again, we use a new campsite. So it's always one of the things that's difficult for any
pro or
team.
Con of the campsite. Did you like it?
I thought there was a lot to the campsite, but because of the number of players, we're only able to use a small amount of the campsite. So we basically use the same triangle. We went
Right.
from the main bunkhouse or the main barracks, we called it.
Barracks,
We went from
right.
barracks, down the hill to tavern, back up the hill to NPC camp, across the top of the hill to barracks, back down to NPC, or
Right.
back across the NPC camp and down to tavern. There's definitely a clear triangle of space that was used. I did see a couple adventures, modules, quests, whatever, used in the plain by the lake.
The lake, yeah.
Pond, I don't know what you call it. Small pond, big, or
Small
lake.
flooded area because all it's done is rain in the
That has
Midwest.
been my experience for just cold
2
and
weeks.
wet. I'm tired of cold and wet. Oh my goodness. Anybody else, anybody has been dealing with flooding issues, goodness, anybody outside, we understand. It's been really, really wet. We're actually recording inside on one of the few beautiful days we had, and windows are wide open. That's why if you hear kids maybe playing outside, Cinco de Drinko is in full effect. And
Yes.
What are we rocking down?
Sunday Bloody Mary
Sunday,
brunch.
Bloody Mary Sunday, Bloody Mary, wait. Bloody Sunday, Sunday, Bloody Sunday. It's a U2 song.
Oh, okay.
About the Easter. Yeah, I get your thing, yeah.
You're the music one.
Yeah, but it's also about Irish history.
I'm Portuguese. What do you want?
Anyway.
So I would say that I also didn't get a real good feeling of the site, but here we didn't know it, but we were driving to the event and having some of our own personal pet peeves be triggered at this last event.
Yeah, so let's take that a little bit. We did not realize that as we're recording it up to the event, we started talking about certain pet peeves, and unfortunately they kind of came to fruition. I mean, it's easy to be spoiled.
Yes.
I will freely admit and openly admit I am very spoiled on playing at campsites that allow me to have smaller bunks and smaller sleeping areas. One of my things I don't care for is, 40 people sleeping in one large building. And it could be a large, comfortable building. We had a large, comfortable building.
Yeah.
There was beds for everyone. No one was on the floor or on a random couch. Or if you've been to a convention and had the random dude can I sleep under the table? Sure, buddy. We'll get you a pillow and a blanket and a vodka martini and hope that you just pass the F out.
Right.
Whereas, there was no want. There was no need for holy crap. Nobody was cold. Nobody was cold. Nobody was uncomfortable. For the weather being what it was, everybody had a bed. So fantastic job on staff for making sure that everybody was comfortable. We forget
everybody
that. That's
was
good job
taken
on that.
care of, right. And I will freely admit that I do enjoy staying someplace where the bathroom is also inside and I do not have to get up at 3 a.m., put clothes on, put shoes on, usually flip-flops, and wander out into the cold and hope as a PC that I don't randomly run into somebody that wants to kill me.
Or just having to
just to pee.
Or just deal on the snow.
Right.
Nobody, there's been many times I sat in bed going, well, my kidneys hate me right now. But they too will realize it's 20 degrees outside, and they also will wait. So obviously it triggered that pet peeve of
everybody was on top.
Everybody's on top of each other.
Sleeping arrangements where everybody was in a vicinity of one big barracks.
Which meant overhead lights are on.
Overhead lights are on. People have got stuff everywhere. There's a little bit of a body funk going on because you are still LARPing.
What if somebody was like, yeah, it smells like nuts and butts in here.
So it is just it's one of those things, communal sleeping areas, and I know my roommate and I both agree as communal sleeping spaces just tend to be not good for people that are light sleepers, and just at the end of the day you want to be able to basically shut down, decompress, and when you're all in a bunk area, you've got some people that's a snorer, or they snore, or you've got somebody that just is a light sleeper, they're going to toss and turn. You've got a lot of times bed bunks that the person above you is going to toss and turn, and every movement's going to wake you up.
Pretty good, I think.
You're not bad.
Okay.
It's just those little things can have a tendency to grind on you Friday into Saturday, and then Saturday night for us specifically, you got a long drive the next day.
Yeah,
you're trying to decompress.
I am definitely. You and I have a rule of hey, I'm going to sleep as late as I can, which
Right.
means luckily you get up early anyway. You're
I
just
do.
an early riser, but like you start packing up my stuff for me,
Right.
knowing that if I could squeeze out that extra 45 minutes of sleep, then the odds of us not dying on the road increase greatly.
Right.
But we're in a unique, and again, we have to, for our listeners, have to reestablish the fact of, nothing wrong with that style of sleeping arrangement. It is good, especially for a chapter or a game that has under 50, 75 players. A lot of times places will charge per head or charge per cabin rental, and it gets outside of the scope to be
Right.
like, hey, we can't afford to
Just
rent.
because 3 people are like, hey, we
Yeah.
want to cabin
I want to
by
sleep in my own
ourselves.
space. Like,
Yeah.
all right, are you dropping the extra, $200 to sleep in your own little space? Like, so I get it. Like, we get it. And I'm not going to hold any game accountable for that. We have played in games, though, where like, oh, we only got one sleeping area. We're like, F that. We're camping in the woods. That becomes uncomfortable, and it also fits characters.
Yeah.
For another group of characters that we play, it fits for them to sit in the woods and sleep in uncomfortable because they are grumpy, angry kitties, and I get that.
Or it's that, or we sleep out a game.
Or we sleep out a game, which I prefer not to do anyway.
Right.
Because I always want that opportunity to kill each other. But for this particular weekend, especially since we're rolling with another team that we're really trying to be part of and like have extended ourselves to be part of this team, then it makes sense for us to stay with this team.
Right.
It'd be silly for us to be like, cool, we're sleeping out a game. So we get it. 100% get it. Again, I'm stressing it out. For what it is, there was heat, there was beds for everyone, bathrooms were accessible.
Great.
Absolutely fantastic thing. For me personally, I saw it as dealing with other people, inability to talk in small groups, because it's hard to plot and scheme or do any of that. Like, again, I'm a rogue, so I like the kind of subtle conversations and even sometimes you get the meaningful conversations with a group or with small people. It's harder to do when you've got
Everybody's there, and you don't want to,
people
and
there.
especially for me, you don't want to ever exclude anybody or feel like you're excluding somebody from a conversation. But there were definitely conversations that are one-on-one and personal, that don't need somebody walking up on and then having that awkward of like, hey, we were kind of having a one-on-one
Right.
Conversation,
Can
and
you
then
yeah.
where do they go though? Because
4 feet behind you and just kind of peeking through a door.
right, it's just a little inaccessible for those kinds of interactions.
Sure. Touching on the sleeping noises and stuff like that. So, one thing I used to do, and I may have to start doing again, I used to bring a little bottle of Axe body spray. I know I do smell like a middle school hallway. I understand that. But Axe body spray does go a long way of masking funk with
Right.
fume. And sometimes people prefer fume over funk. And then, just earplugs.
Yeah,
Earplugs
I
go a
forgot my
long way.
earplugs. I usually have them on me, and I usually am not that bad because I do sleep next to somebody that snores.
Sometimes on Sunday night, knowing game is more or less called. I also take Tylenol PM
Oh, that's true.
to help knock me out and like deal
Actually
with
it
with
yeah.
pain, because it's the thing you're using a lot of muscle groups, especially going up that hill 30 times. Like, I'm in decent shape, and I went up that hill, and I got like 3/4 up the hill and went, come on. But honestly, on Sunday morning, the tops of my thighs were sore, and it would have been like, damn, if I would have took a couple, Tylenol going to bed, a couple ibuprofen before bed to kind of
Right.
help ease that, then you feel it in the morning. And all of a sudden, you're driving for 4 hours, and you get that lethargy kind of kicking in of like, oh, we had to stop 2 or 3 times on the way home because like, hey, I'm cramping up. I need to like just go for a walk. So we stopped at a couple places and stretch our legs a bit, which is good. Also to wake up and get blood and whatnot. So that's the tips for, again, as I said before, anybody that starts off a conversation with pro tip is probably a douchebag. That said, pro tip, get some Tylenol PM. Some
Back
Axe
of body.
back of body's always good, but like some Tylenol PM, some earplugs, and some sort of fume over funk spray. I mean, Axe body spray. Yeah, for what it is, it's very dude bro-ish, but it does the job.
Yeah.
Like, it will cover up everything else. Just like, man, you smell like a middle school hallway. I'm like, yep, I don't smell like nuts and butts, so good to go.
So as a secondary part to that is, so we were all sleeping in the same building as NPC, not as the same building, but basically the secondary building was all of NPC camp.
Yes.
And I will give props to Kalinthas team for their use of that building.
Yep.
We had some not unexpected rain, but we did have rain.
They supposedly got rain all weekend, but then by the time it got to game time, there was only Saturday night rain.
Saturday from like 7 on.
And they kept saying, it's supposed to snow. Remember, it was getting all cheery. It's supposed to. And I immediately was like, no, it's not. You think it's going to snow. The lowest it's going to get is like 32, which means it's going to rain, and then get cold, and then be like icy cold rain, and then mud, and then maybe a snowflake or two. And then you're going to wake up and it's be icy cold mud.
It didn't get that bad, but it did start about 7 o'clock Saturday night. Like the heavy rain, cold.
Got misty.
Like
the biggest
misty.
problem is when you got that. Like rain you can even deal with as long as you put your hood up. But when it's like blowing mist in your face, then it's just uncomfortable. Yeah. Especially as a makeup race myself. Like I got makeup on and I'm just like, now I know I'm dripping. Now I know I'm uncomfortable. My face is cold. I want to scratch it or dab it dry, but I really can't, or else I'm going to just smooge my face everywhere. I'm going to turn into a pink Power Ranger. So I'm pretty much done. And yeah, the weather it didn't play nice. And again, it's
so
spring.
We want to give props to the Kalinthas team for utilizing the space. They also set up an entire, essentially set up a extension of said cabin with some tents and almost a hallway with some PVC pipe. I know
pipe and
Chad
carpet.
was he said it was a prototype and he's just like, we have great plans for this, so it was a little rocky, but otherwise it did extend their space, and with extending their space also extends your illusion, your belief.
And seeing as that we're going through a crypt or a mausoleum, like
length is what you want to
have. You want length over girth. Like get that. What are you laughing for?
So I appreciate the plot team's ability to go and do that, because we've kind of all been there. We've gone to the, even Hotbox Punchy Rocks was, okay, you're in this room. At least this
had
way
tarps set up to
we could go from a doorway inside, go through the inside, go through a couple of tunnels set up by the bunks and tarps, and then actually go through a tent and a hallway and then circle back around. It felt more realistic as a length of traveling than in one door, out the other door.
Right. And we've done that too. We've done into door, everybody turn around. Okay, now we fight this way.
So definitely a pro of the weekend was the extension of those, what do they call it? Mod
buildings, mod barn, whatever you want to call it. No, and props on all of South Michigan for finding new and creative ways to extend, to be excited. Because that was one thing I will say was one of the cons that I noticed was there wasn't much wow factor in the sense of, we have gotten used to hook horrors and beholders and glowing.
What a weird statement to say. We got used to these.
Well, yeah, we didn't get used to the creatures, but we got used to the spectacle. We got used to the spectacle of, portal stones glowing and ruins that when you put the pieces in, they glow. We got used to all of this form of spectacle. And this particular event seemed to have lacked that. And I was going to criticize negatively. Like, there wasn't much spectacle in there. But then he pointed out the spectacle
was the setup.
I'm going to step away.
Absolutely.
Cough drop.
The setup of the extension of the mod barn, or the extension of the mod cabin was...
Where are my cough drops?
was beneficial. Then... it's almost like first world adventuring problems. Oh no, we didn't get to fight a monster that was hook horror.
We are spoiled in that regard.
We are very spoiled.
We're rolling and expecting to be like, what are we, why aren't we fighting, of course the one I grab is like gooey. Why aren't we fighting this other crazy nonsense monster?
But I don't want to do that every weekend, because if you do that every weekend, when it does happen, it doesn't seem as awesome and awe-inspiring.
Here comes 6 feet of foam. Ooh.
Right. I don't want to fight that every weekend. I want my ability to have an imagination still have a part in the game.
Sure. All right. So I will give that the big spectacle was, and looking forward to the extension of this PVC maze, basically.
Right.
I could see that being set up to be, hey, here's a full legit maze you can run through. That will be fun, should they figure out how they want to work that in, and especially if you attach it to a side of a building, so you come out and there's like little hidden, or there's a lot to do, a very dungeon building type material, which would be cool where you get to a point where you set up modular type dungeons and stuff, which maybe they're already in process of doing that.
Right.
Again,
it was a prototype, so I'm sure they're going to new and improve it soon.
Dangerous prototype.
Right. PC talk. Dangerous prototype.
Dangerous prototype. It's kind of like this podcast. Dangerous prototype. So we were kind of talking on potentially not so much negatives, but what were some like constructive things? Because one thing that I have noticed too is that for me, you could see a difference in cohesiveness between the Kalinthas Campaign plot team and the Dragonreach plot team. And obviously there's the very keenly obvious things of, hey, you've got best friends of 25 years and LARPers of 20 plus years running a game compared to 3 players that are newer. I don't say they're as new. I'm sure they've got, a good number of years under their belt as well. But you've got 3 people running this game. What are some of the things that you've noticed that could possibly, and if you don't mind, I start with, because I think we both agreed on this, was I was surprised at the utilization of the resources that they had.
Yeah.
They had a fair amount of NPCs, but from what I saw, a lot of your plot team, the trio of your main plot team for the Kalinthas, were on the same modules together on a regular basis. It wasn't much like, hey, you go run this, I'm going to run this, and you go run this. It seemed all 3 of them were constantly on the same mod or on the same story, like stuck, like almost joined at the hip in some regards of not branching out and handling things differently.
Taking a couple of NPCs and going and doing stuff.
Like, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take 1 or 2 NPCs. So you got 3 guys doing one thing and 3 guys doing
run
another
that,
thing.
and then the other guys in town running crunchies for whoever's left in town. I would agree with that. The constructive criticism for me on that end is I know that there was one mod that went off like almost flawlessly. The meeting of the 2 groups
on the 2 sides,
into the crypt. One group decided to go the other opposite end of the crypt and fight in. The other one went to the other side, and they met in the middle, and it was almost flawlessly handled.
Right.
I heard nothing but whoops and hollers about that.
Right.
That's amazing. Hands-off plot team.
We're a little jealous. We didn't jump on that ourselves. We got sidetracked and
right. But it just seemed like there were some things that could have been running simultaneously just to kind of get people more into, hey, what's going on here? Right. Now, mind you, plot team or PC wise, we became like, or at least our group said, hey, this is what we need to do as a town. We need to send as many groups in early Saturday morning, push as far as we can. Every group push as far as they can into the crypt.
Into this undead haven.
Right. And and the ultimate goal from that was every wave or every group that did go in got rid of another greater undead that we didn't have to fight Saturday night.
And it seemed like they did a good job too of not so much statting, but like, okay, what's the group that's coming in? We'll give them an appropriate challenge. We're not gonna, like, obviously we're running with the high level group, and so it makes sense that we're dealing with Liches and Death Knights.
Right.
Which is basically your penultimate bad guys. Like,
right.
Liches and Death Knights. Like, congratulations, you're getting your face rocked in because they're
I think
Liches and Death Knights.
What was it? The ultimate number was 600 greater undead killed.
Huh? I'll be waiting for my patch for Burger Slayers. What? Nah, that's too funny. That's a story for later. But so that was good. There was, like I said, there was a lot of good things. There is definitely, I guess that's the biggest critique is you could still see that the cohesiveness isn't quite there. It's building, and you can see the rapport building amongst that plot team.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the
confidence.
Maybe that's the downside of it being associated with the SoMi flag of your competition, basically air quote competition, or your other plot team is a group of guys that's been playing together for 25 years.
Right.
So you're always going to be compared to that. Like
and I think their story is unique enough. Like, I don't think they're rehashing.
For sure.
It's not rehashing anything that the other plot team has already done. It stands alone. It's doing something different. I've never seen the island pirate kind of thing being played out. We've had I've personally played the Kalinthas plot team. This would be my third weekend, and one actual additional one day that I went, and that was straight Kalinthas. And the uniqueness of the area and some of their natural, like the big tree being part of the whole picture, there's definitely an intrigue there that I feel like people or PCs are barely scratched the surface.
Sure.
But it's just one of those things.
They're all islands, too, which goes back to another little tangent here, but this goes back to another Nero game that we've played where it was actually the regional event.
The regional event used to be Skyport.
They used a concept of, this is a town called Skyport, and it is basically a platform, like basically a city built on a platform, and every X number of years, a random floating island would dock at this location next to the city, and that was an excuse, air quote excuse, to run a campaign that would be a one-shot weekend.
Right.
So an island would land. If players wanted to go in and just bust them a fuck it up and just ruin and crash the island, cool. If
they actually wanted to know what was going on or try to fix it.
If they crashed it or they ruined it or they messed up the plot or whatever else, the weekend is over, the island floats away or burns into the sea, and it's done. Right. And nobody knows how many islands there are, but it allows for diversifying the plot. So you could have a jungle island, you can have an ice island, you could have it feels like Legend of Zelda, like temples. Yeah. A fire temple, a jungle temple, an earth temple, a flamey ice temple, like all of these different temples you could do. All of these islands come in, and you could go ahead and wreck them or save them or do the plot or fail the plot. It goes away and it does it again. So in this vein of that, you also have this multiple island with the Kalinthas Isles. Each island seems to have its own flavor or has its own essence to it, has its own plot. You could write your own story, and they don't have to all intermingle, which is good. The constructive downside of that, though, is now you start to divide your attention between, wait, what am I learning at here? Does this correlate with X, Y, and Z? Or is this its own separate entity? And it gets a little confusing. We're talking about the transparency of some storylines. Sometimes you want a storyline to be transparent, so you can at least hook your players and get them to go, okay, what am I looking at? Now I have an understanding where I go from there. For me personally, and again, we talked about opinions, and maybe our opinion has a little bit more weight because of a podcast, but my opinion was, other than kill a bunch of these undead and some chaotic thing ran loose afterwards, I have no grasp of the greater story that's going on. I feel that I'm grasping at straws. It feels opaque in a sense of, what am I looking at, though? What am I seeing? I don't have that vibe right now. I personally had difficulty trying to grab onto, but what's the bigger story here?
Right.
Maybe
and there might not be.
Maybe there's not, and it'd be fine if there isn't. And I wonder if that's maybe a veteran player thing, looking for the deeper story.
I absolutely know that it's always been my problem. I always am looking for the deeper story.
You've definitely been into some chapters that are like specifically announced that it's going to be a one-off campaign or a one-off shot, and you're still digging at it like, yeah, but why is it? Stop asking questions. This will be over.
I have a problem with it.
Noon on Sunday, this whole campaign's gone. Stop it.
Yes.
But
it's
character development.
It's character development, and it's also, for me specifically, I have to have motivation. Like, don't get me wrong, killing undead is great, and I have a very specific PC personal motivation to kill as many undead as possible. However, I still have the grand scheme of things of going, but why? Why did this happen?
And we're not
what
saying,
is it affecting
and
the
we're not
greater
saying
picture?
And we're not saying that Kalinthas doesn't have this set up. Because obviously, we know as plot people ourselves, as any dungeon master knows, that you will show your players one page out of the novel that you have written. That they will never see that novel. Right. They will never see how X character slept or had a child with Y character, and that child became this other thing and this. All you know is, man, that guy's an asshole. We need to kill him.
And that might be all. That might be all that happens.
And you'll never, unless down the road somebody decides to do some sort of ritual to bring back the spirit and talk to spirits or talk to ghosts, or we know what we're talking about. But for other gamers, to like, hey, how do we bring the story up, and then find out, oh, he was actually so and so's kid, and this, and then finally you go, oh,
he was just an asshole.
That's why he's an asshole, or that's why this. So, I mean, I think all in all, the Kalinthas campaign is good.
Yep.
They have a disadvantage of having to compare themselves with the Dragonreach campaign, unfortunately. And it's never going to be a comparison. And even Dragonreach, you'd be like, no, we don't compare ourselves with them. But as a player, as someone that shows up to play, there's going to be a look and go, okay, who's running it? What are we preparing for?
Right.
And there's going to be a comparison of, well, those guys would have ran it this way. Those guys would have ran it. So I guess our first step is to make sure we don't compare it. To look at it and merit it on its own ability to run their own game.
Yep.
They're younger players, too, which is exciting. To have a younger plot team to express their views and to see what they're looking at and how they want to present a situation. Because, again...
And they're not coming at it jaded and
that's
coming at...
Not saying Dragonreach is jaded, but, again, we go back into... We've also seen everything. We've seen
they're not
burnout.
They're like, well, let's try this, or they may try something that another plot team, because they tried it 6 years ago, would be like, no, let's not do that.
And if anything, they have the advantage of being able to lean on their Dragonreach team and be like, hey, I have an idea. What do you think of this? Well, we tried this years ago, or we tried this and it worked. This worked. This didn't work.
Right.
This benefited, this didn't benefit, or this is what this is the emotion we were trying to convey. This is what it was perceived as. Maybe you want to change that,
right?
Or maybe so. I still think Alliance South Michigan is by far one of the best chapters I've played in a while.
Absolutely.
I still rank it up there next to Grand Rapids, Nero Grand Rapids, and then when you were running Nero Highborn, is still one of my favorite campaigns as well. Like, I know I'm sitting right across from you, and I can easily
it's a little weird,
you,
right? It's a little weird but
I
do still hear the stories. Like, I have a lot of people I still, talk to, and we hang out with, or we go to dinner and hang out with, and those are the stories they bring up of, this was a integral part of my PC building and stuff like that. So it's fun to hear those things, but it is a little weird.
That's always good to hear those stories. And I mean, all in all, it was a good game. We feel a little bad on, again, where we do our road trip up,
right?
And we're just like, here's our pet peeves, and we get there and like, this is our pet peeves.
So we've been talking a lot about the piece, or the NPC, or the plot side of things. Name some good interactions you had with player characters, with PCs.
Well, obviously, rolling around with the group. Call it out, like rolling around with the Order of the Emerald Flame. It's nice to see them all play together and get the opportunity. Now, obviously, it's rare when all of them get to play at the same time.
We were missing a very specific piece this past weekend.
We're missing our friend. Yeah, we're missing
Naomi and Link.
And I know I could be reading it wrong, but I know Link and I still need to roll around. Like, it's been a long time since him and I have played together.
Right.
As like, hey, we're rolling, and again, you get a level of bonding with people when you're going to go into a fight or go into a situation, like, all right, let's do this, and you guys are playing off each other.
Right.
So I know we need to have that moment. That's going to be coming up soon. Having some of those interactions were big for me, because I did admittedly focus my weekend on hanging out with the Order of Emerald Flame and hanging out with them and learning from them, observing their mannerisms and how they work as a cohesive unit. Because you and I work as a cohesive unit, but we also work with different groups. Like, I used to run another group that was a little bit more playful and a little bit more laissez-faire. The OEF isn't.
Right.
So trying to see how they play. They can be, for sure.
Normally
but
they
get stuff done. They're a crew that gets things done. And so for me, a lot of it was the interpersonal reactions with that. But then also rolling with players that, like, we had some out-of-towners that were just so much fun to play with.
Right.
Their excitement of the new rule system, of coming back, and they're like, oh, this is fun if you do this and this. And so there's an out-of-gaminess there, too, that you don't want to break that out-of-game banter, or you don't want to cause out-of-game banter. But when you're talking to somebody that's come back from not playing for a while, and they're like, you mean I could do this and do these abilities? And even talking like, oh, I want to play more of a Berserker Barbarian, like, D&D
those
style.
are the Carps players,
Yeah.
Ray and...
They come out and go, I want to play this style of game. How do I do that without just swinging numbers? You could go, well, you can use, like, shattering abilities and all these other abilities to bring up, to enforce that character. You don't have to just run out there and swing big numbers, but you could run out there, run up to a shield line and break everybody's shield and like Big Bad Barbarian.
Right.
So there's other ways of incorporating that into the characters and just seeing them like so excited about like all these rules that have been changed for the better to help balance the game is a lot of fun. I mean, that's why I've been on my Alliance high lately, to the chagrin of other games, unfortunately. But like playing Alliance and playing in this new rule set has given me abilities to play a style that's just different. It's a different game, and it's encouraging to go, what do you want to do? Like, that's the question now. It isn't just like, oh, you want to be a fighter or a rogue or a healer. It's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to be Trixie? Do you want to do traps? Do you want to do alchemy?
Everybody has the ability to have a one and done superhero move.
A very gimmick. Basically.
Yeah, every gimmick.
But it's not a negative gimmick. It's what do you do? Oh, this person throws a dagger that could kill your face. Like, oh really? Okay, well we need that for when the big nasty comes up, you just kill its face. Like, everybody has kind of that one trick pony, but it encourages, you get a whole barn of one trick ponies. Somebody's going to be good at something. Right. Oh, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with our undead. Zane, go just punch its face. So, what are we dealing with? A nature thing.
So to bring it back to interactions with our PCs.
How about you?
I would give shout out to Moon for her portrayal of her human Saturday night. Okay. Or, no, I'm sorry, Friday night, being scared of the undead.
Yes. That was really good. That was
funny. She rolled around with a rat, our friend Lewis Finch, that will lie on the ground and fake being dead. Oh, sure. And there are undead that aren't smart, so they're just going to walk past you.
They're zombies and stuff.
So he and her were kind of doing that all night, and that was fun to interact with. Another moment that shined out to me was our trip to the tavern after being bombarded for several hours on Friday night with undead and going, we need to move the town to the tavern. And Colette and I basically, front line was Colette's gear to call and the back line was mine. And we just kind of would be like, Colette, you good? Dusty, you good? Yep, we're good. And we just moved. And just the cohesiveness there was really good. And then I think my a couple moments with Quinn were integral to realizing how well we work together as a team and how well it's going to go horribly wrong when we butt heads.
When you guys butt heads? I mean, well, again, you guys are strong personalities. And it's good for character development. Like, if you're playing characters and you got strong character personalities and traits and, like, just grounds that you won't move on. That's a hard thing about live action role playing. You're not handed a script. Right. You're not handed a character dossier saying, this is what you do. You have to write it yourself and go, okay, what are for me, I always go, what's 3 character flaws and 3 character, like, merits of the way I play my fox? Like, what are things? One of the pregame of, clever. I have to remember to be clever and witty. So there are moments I wake up, even when I'm tired, to go, I have to be sharp. That is one of the key things for me. And then look at some of my negative traits, which I'm not going to give away because you can find those out on your own. Come to South Michigan and learn.
Oh, I'm fully aware of
you
your
are
negative
merely
traits.
Cognizant. I was once aware. But so you got these negative traits, and it helps build that character because ultimately there's going to be a part of you in every character. Right. That's the one thing about live action gaming. There's going to be a part of you in every character because it's your reaction, your knee-jerk reaction to a situation. Now, obviously, you could steer down that river as hard as you want and go, okay, I'm going to be on the more chaotic side of things, or maybe on the more lawful side, or maybe on the more, gut reaction, or maybe on the more, well, it's for a balance and it's for goodness. That's fine, but ultimately, you're going to be put in a position of, I need a decision right now. Right. And you have to keep that character in mind while acting accordingly to the situation without you as a player, not as a character, losing your mind and going, F you all, burn it to the ground. So it is tricky. It's not easy. And, there's obviously a leeway that gets as other players. And you want to say it gets easier as you play, but at the same time, it gets easier to slip into that character and have those moments, which will actually be probably a question for next week. Okay. When one of our listeners did ask a question of, do we have any of those 6-second moments get us into that is purely character reaction and not thinking, not
overthinking.
Yeah, overthinking and going, okay, this is my character, I'm going to do this. You're just in character mode and boom, something happens. You say a witty line or you do a thing or do something that is, you look back and go, that wasn't me. That was the character taking me to go do it. I am merely along. My body is along for the ride. The character grabbed me and went, nope, we're doing this. So that'll be some questions as well. Another question is going to be big for next week. Is going to be really focused on you, my dear Dusty, on female gamers.
Yeah.
And the explosion of female gamers in our ranks, and in some ways outranking, or not even outranking, but outnumbering male gamers.
Yep.
So,
I got some unique experience over the last couple of days as far as being around some of my female friends that do LARP and getting their perspective. So it's not just all on me to be the single voice representation, so I can kind of portray a group
dynamic.
opinion, a group dynamic for it.
So look forward to that, because next week we will be on the road again. Driving up from Chicago-ish land area, which is vague as hell, but from Chicagoland area all the way up to Traverse City, Michigan, a 5-hour adventure. And we won't do a 5-hour podcast, or will we?
No, we're not.
No, we're not. But we'll be doing a roadcast again, and hopefully I can get the kinks worked out of the mic system, so we can have it a little bit clearer and get rid of all background noise that's there. And hopefully that turns into more questions. So obviously we encourage everybody to send us comments and questions at greymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com. In the works, talking about getting a Discord channel of our own going, so we can have people send questions there, talk about some of the topics we talk about, and even just be updated with information on when we release a new episode or release anything else. I think that's going to do it for this week's episode. However, stay tuned, because what we're going to do is we're going to run credits, and then we'll be right back. Why are we going to end the episode here? Because we have some Avengers Endgame talk to do, and we really don't want to spoil it. We're very anti-spoiler.
If you haven't watched the movie, end here. Come back to this episode once you've watched the movie. Yeah. But otherwise, if you've watched the movie, please continue to listen. Yep, We'd like to have our opinions listened to.
listen to the credits, and we'll be right back with some Endgame talk. So, for now, I am Dusty Red.
And I am Dusty White.
And as we like to say over here at Grey Muzzle Geekery, remember, we are all geeks. To be otherwise may very well mean to live without passion. Have a good night.
Night.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Grey Muzzle Geekery with Dusty Red and Dusty White.
You can support our continued geekery at our Patreon website, patreon.com/Grey Muzzle Geekery. Be sure to check back often as we start to add geek cred levels.
You can send your questions and comments to us at greymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com, or find us on Twitter at Grey Muzzle Geek.
We can be found on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and Buzzsprout.
And a special thank you to Pepper Coyote for our intro theme. And if you like what you heard, you can find more of his stuff on Spotify, Patreon, or directly from his Bandcamp page. Hey, you're still here? Hey, there's seriously, there's some spoilers ahead. No, seriously, guys, like endgame spoilers. If you haven't seen it, now's your chance to turn back. You gonna turn back? I mean, we can do the 3, 2, 1 countdown, but people die and get old and married.
What?
Okay, seriously, Endgame spoilers. So, Dusty White, you've seen Endgame.
I have.
And I'm obviously a little bit late on the things. I literally have seen Infinity War for the first time like 3 weeks ago.
Right.
And then immediately went into Endgame.
Correct.
Boom. So, where do you want to go? What do you want to talk about for Endgame? Like, where do you think we're going to go now? We're in Phase 4. Ooh.
All right, let's start easy. What's your best line of the weekend, or for the movie?
Oh, I don't want to steal yours, obviously, because I think I know what you're going to say. So you're going to start first?
No. I think I changed mine last night, so...
You don't like the I Am Iron Man?
No. Well, I mean, yeah, it's pretty... It epitomizes the last 11 years.
It wraps everything up. It started that way, it ends that way.
Yeah. Spoilers, Tony Stark dies.
What? We're already past the spoiler warning.
Exactly.
Anything we say at this point is your own damn fault. So anyway, continue. Now, what's your favorite line?
My personal favorite line, and I did change it just last night talking about it, was, "Are you going to tell us about her?" No, I don't think I will.
That is classy. That is very reminiscent to our grandparents and that kind of generation of the kiss don't tell. The whole like, no, I'm good.
I finally got what I wanted.
I got what I wanted. I'm happy. I don't need to tell you. Who the hell are you for me to have to tell like what I've done the last 80 years, 70 years, or whatever.
To them, 7 seconds. But yeah, it was a lifetime that I've led. But you don't need to know about that now.
And in the movie terms, it's something you don't want to have him sit there and explain what it is. It wraps it up nicely.
Yeah.
And the fact that they like do the flashback of him dancing with her in the house. Like just kind of, there you go. You got his dance. Life is good. Like, Cap's happy. So I guess there's a list of questions we can start poking at, and I'm very curious on what other people might think of. So you're a female.
Okay.
Last I've heard, I mean, I haven't been able to confirm that, but last I've heard you're a female.
Right.
Do you feel pandered to?
There was a moment that I did. I am a female geek, and I do enjoy comic books, but I would not consider myself a comic book geek. I enjoyed all of Marvel, most of the movies. I was entertained, if not like driving home, Googling a bunch of stuff because I wanted to know everything.
Not at the same time, we encourage safe driving here at the Grey Muzzle Geekery podcast.
Not personally while I was driving. Sure. So, yes, there was a moment that even though at the end of it, I felt a little pandered to when all the females rolled together and they were like, good luck getting, like Spider-Man says, good luck getting through that. Right. And all the girls, like, assemble vaginas unite.
Whoa.
There was a moment of like, okay, I feel a little pandered to, but at the same time, the inner girl geek in me went like, fuck yes, hell yes, that's fucking amazing.
You got your moment. Your moment to shine.
And it wasn't overly done. It wasn't like, hey, let's point a bunch of lights and flash camera and talk about it and all this other stuff and like gear up for it. It just was a moment. It happened. It passed. And it was fucking awesome.
And the fact that they acknowledged it was helpful, I'm sure.
Yes.
The fact that the way they had everybody lined up of, hey, I did see it as a little, I don't want to say pandering, because obviously, look, at the end of the day, I'm a mostly white male in the suburbs here that, I don't have much ground to speak.
Right.
At the end of the day, they look and be like, what do you know about struggle? So, I get it. But, looking at it from a pandering perspective, you can look and go, it almost felt that way a little bit, looking at it like, man, they're really amping up, like the Powerpuff girl power type thing. At the same time, it was a really cool mini montage.
Yeah.
You want to say montage? Of
I wouldn't want to go up against any of them individually ever.
Well, but even just scanning across them in a montage type manner of, here's a list of characters that we put in the movies over the years that are strong female leads, that are strong female characters, that are like, hey, we didn't forget about you guys. Like, and it's easy to say, well, why does it take so long for all that? Because I asked that because I got a coworker who's a bit of a nerd, and he's black. And so I asked him, too, I'm like, do you feel pandered to? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're going to have a black in America. Like, it's pretty awesome. And he's like, and he stopped, and it was cool talking with him a little bit. Because obviously, again, I'm definitely bubbled with my experience. Like, I have grown up with
white male privilege.
I do have a level of white male privilege. I am a white male in America, so my odds of succeeding are higher than usual. But talking with him, and like, so where would you feel? And he's like, it's tricky. Because there was a part of him that said, it's about damn time.
Yeah.
There's another part that said, why wasn't this sooner?
Right.
And I look and go, and I guarantee if they would have done it 5 years ago, you would have done the same thing. It's about damn time, and why wasn't this sooner?
Right.
Like, unless it's the 1970s, 60s, 50s, 40s going, why wasn't this sooner? You're going to have that
same reaction.
The same reaction. And it is a little unfortunate that it took this long. I mean, obviously, the big pushing point was Black Panther.
Yeah. Having
Black Panther and everything be a cultural phenomenon is fantastic. Like, I still got this stupid cough. It's culturally fantastic and it's super relevant and it's cool to get minority races. I mean, obviously you have Miles Morales with Into the Spider-Verse
Right.
being that mixed-race hero as well. So it's good they're doing that, and it's good they're pushing that agenda. And even then, they're making a big deal out of the first openly gay character in Marvel movies when he's at Captain America's speech. His one of the Russo brothers.
Oh.
Well, you know when Captain was doing his meeting, his post-world-ending, post-5/11 world split, and they're at the meeting, and one of the Russo brothers was playing a character that was like, talking about when he was out on a date with this other guy, and he started crying.
Oh, got it. Okay, post Thanos meeting.
snap.
Now I'm on the same page. Okay.
Post Thanos snap. He was playing a character, saying he's with another guy, and he
went on a date,
and they were crying, and then he cried afterwards, and that's one of the first openly gay characters.
Fair.
And then, obviously, you had the bald guy, who was actually the creator of Thanos.
Yep.
He was, I guess, cameo, which is pretty cool to have. But, so you're having a lot of these firsts. Mm-hmm. You're having a lot of, I don't say first, black superhero, but you're having a lot of characters that are coming out that are of mixed races or of different genders, and definitely quashing the whole, everybody's a straight white male superhero. Woo!
Right.
So it's awesome. I'm obviously in favor of that. My personal experiences have wonderfully colored my views over the last several years, where I have been able to get out and deal with different types of people from different walks of life and expand my own horizons.
And feel like they were represented.
And feel that at least a part of them is represented. Obviously, Hollywood's got a long way to go.
Right.
And they got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of characters that are still being retconned or being changed. Again, a Black Captain America is a big step in a direction. I am very curious to see if that's going to be the trend in that regard. If they're going to make standalone movies of Sam as Captain America and Bucky as a sidekick or something else.
Right.
Because obviously in the comics, Bucky was Captain first,
yeah,
and then Sam took up the mantle for a little while. So are they going to do a reversal here, where Sam picks up the mantle for a movie or two, and then
it passes to Bucky,
and Bucky becomes
with it. Yeah.
Because obviously you don't want to give Bucky
the mantle honestly,
right away.
It comes down who's got the greater ass.
I mean,
it's
it is
America's ass.
But do you think Bucky should have been?
No, because I think Bucky stands alone as his own soldier, as the own Winter Soldier, as somebody that now is still on his own redemption path. He's still got his own demons to deal with,
which is a prime reason to not give him.
Exactly, not to be Captain America, because he's still got as Black Widow would say, he's still got blood on his ledger. Mm-hmm. He's got to work through that, whereas Sam doesn't. I mean, at least in the Marvel movie universe.
He's pretty solid.
Right.
Okay, he's a stand-up guy. Now, he doesn't have any of the crazy superpowers.
Well, he's not a super soldier.
It's still... I mean, compared to everybody else, he's basically Tony Stark without the robots now.
Yeah, you still have War Machine.
Right.
So I'm interested to see if he still stays on.
Do we have Gwyneth Paltrow news from her?
I don't think so. I think she's done.
Because
she's got Rescue.
I could still see her rolling in as a cameo. In full suit. So I forgot what for her character was.
Rescue.
Rescue, yeah, yep. That's right. So she rolls in as Rescue, that would make a good cameo, especially if you have anything with Spider-Man, where he comes rolling in and hey kid, Tony sends his regards, or anything of that
right
emphasis would be interesting to see.
So did you like how they ended it with Tony?
I thought it was fitting. I actually thought for a second that when Captain goes back in time,
right,
which we go into the whole, did Bucky know? That's one of the questions of, did Bucky know that Captain was going to stay? It would make sense. I mean, they're both men out of time, so it makes sense for Cap to go back and stay. I think there's a secretive conversation they had between them. I think it's something as simple as, doesn't need to be on screen, but Cap going up to Bucky and saying, hey, when I go drop this stuff off, I'm staying. Who do you think I should give the shield to?
Or who do I see you guys in 80 years, essentially? Because he had to live that life.
Sure.
And know that location or that time was going
to happen.
Which
is wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey anyway. I get what they're trying to do with the whole, once you do something, it won't mess with everything in the past, which is a good, like, sweep away stuff. And as long as the stones get back to where they were, all this happens, it's perfectly fine. This is one of those moments where I want to draw a diagram of how the hell does the timelines all work, and at what point does person go back and reappear and mess with his own time. It's confusing to think about.
Blueberry muffins.
Yeah, nobody likes blueberry muffins. So ultimately, you do have to kind of wipe it away and go, you know what? Fine. Time does this wibbly wobbly weird stuff. It is what it is. It's accepting it for what it is. Because otherwise, if you're going to sit there and try to diagram it and follow every piece and follow how and when and why this all happened, you're going to lose your head. Because it's so confusing to try to follow how it does it. Going with it, that's fine. Thanos comes from the future to the past, but to the future again, and he doesn't die.
I honestly liked how they played that off. As far as... Why can I not think of her name now?
Nebula,
thank you. The integral part that Nebula plays was actually well done.
It was weird. It was weird on the neural network thing. Was a little weird. Like,
but it makes sense if she's like 90% robot or computer.
So what? Like, well, first off, then Thanos needs to upgrade his Wi-Fi password. Let's establish that.
Stop using God, Thanos.
Yeah, seriously. No, that Thanos would be like, admin, password. Like,
I gotta make it easy for Ma to understand.
So I guess that's the only weird thing is, like, apparently the World Wide Web of this freaking ship
had I just thought it was interesting.
That. It's on the same tropish nonsense of a rat happening to scurry across all the perfect buttons and then Paul Rudd doesn't age and just shows up again. Like,
his 50 years has only been five hours.
Yeah. Or 5 years.
5 years, 50. Yeah.
This is what happens when you're in, like, Bloody Mary number 3 and want to talk Endgame.
I was making more of a reference to everybody's blown out of the mind that Paul Rudd is 50 years old. And he looks like he's still fucking 20.
Paul Rudd's a vampire.
As somebody who's currently watching the last season of Friends, which Paul Rudd is in.
Yes, he is.
There's not much aging that's happened there.
He has aged gracefully. I have aged like milk. So what are some of the things, like, so we're talking about Phase 4. Because obviously there's not much to talk about Endgame itself. Honestly, I think anybody that's seen it already is going to, because I think that's one of the well-written and genius parts of Endgame. Doesn't need much explaining. It really does a good job in wrapping up, hey, here's how the team is getting together, which is kind of boring. I'll admit the first hour of the movie was...
That's where all the pee breaks happen.
That's where all your pee breaks happen, but that's also... Are you part of the 3-hour no pee club?
No pee club.
I am part of the no pee club.
High five.
I tied the damn thing into a knot to make sure that it wouldn't go. A couple rubber bands, snap. But, like, I made sure that I was good to go. I literally had a regimen of, like, okay, I can't drink water 2 hours beforehand. Like, I can't eat, blah, blah, blah. So when you showed up with a beer for me, I was like, oh, crap. It's going to throw off my rhythm. But I think they did a good job on really wrapping everything up. Like, hey, here's the first hour of getting the band together, and here's everything else. Opening the movie with Hawkeye's family poofing set the tone right away. Hey, this isn't a happy-go-lucky... This isn't Thor Ragnarok.
No.
Where you've got 80s and 70s vibes and music screaming out the ear and funny jokes. Like, this is... The title Endgame set up something big.
Right.
Infinity War, you kind of have a whole mentality of like, oh, Infinity War, it's a whole big thing, it's a whole thing. Endgame literally spells it out. This is the end. Fucking deal with it.
Yep.
We're done at this point.
And if Captain dropping the son of a bitch within the first 7 minutes didn't spell that out for you, if you didn't catch it after Clint Barton's family poofs, you definitely get the feeling when, you know, Captain America's going, fuck this, let's go.
They did grizzled right. It wasn't like DC grizzled and like, you know,
Batman.
But no, they did a good job of, like, for a traditionally colorful franchise, the MCU, they did a good job giving everything a swath of gray. Actually, of being like, hey, everything is dark and dingy. The world's a shit show right now. Like, I'm surprised things didn't build up quicker, I guess, is one of my things. Because obviously you had all of the the statues and monuments to the
The
vanished,
Vanished.
which is a really cool call to it. Of the
It
Vanished.
gave a weird correlation between you can see as Captain America, and obviously they don't really give a time span as far as obvious. Okay, so Tony Stark comes back 22, 23, and there's going to be geeks that are yelling at me at this point.
It's
but
it's
28 days, something.
No, it's like 22 days.
Okay,
He's gone for 22 days because there's 22 movies in the series, in the set.
Oh, got it. Okay, so, and then obviously Captain Marvel comes in, MacGuffins her way to saving him. So then they don't really give a time frame of how long Tony Stark's out for. They go to they find out where Thanos is. They go to fucking deal with Thanos, and then they do finally go 5 years later. So within those 5 years, your first connotation of, okay, this is still post-apocalypse basically.
But you got
your pan.
You've got your order.
Okay,
messed up.
hold on. No, I don't.
Okay.
Because Captain America is doing the AA meeting at that point.
That's 5 years later.
Right.
Right.
So I'm giving there was juxtaposition between when you have Captain America doing your AA meeting with all the survivors.
Sure.
They do the panning shot of I think it's where the Mets play.
Yeah.
I think. So you still got parked cars. You still got
one of the baseball fields. I don't remember exactly, but no, it's definitely.
It looks post-apocalyptic.
Yes, it has clearly been abandoned and pieced out.
Then you show Ant-Man coming back and carrying his little red wagon with all his shit from his storage unit, and you've got missing posters everywhere. You've got garbage piled up in the street. You've got cars abandoned, and kids like, hey, what year is it? And stuff like that. You've got very post-apocalyptic. But then almost the next scene after that is
very
cleaned up memorial, vanished big stone tablets and people's names, and you see survivors mourning those things. It's it's a different juxtaposition of, in 5 years, would our government or our country have the ability to suddenly go,
well, half your labor force is gone. Like, and I agree. Like, I do wonder that, and that's something it's a weird thing to fixate on. Where, like,
as seeing that I've seen it twice already.
The civil engineering in me, the civil engineer in me is just like, how long would it take? Like, would you think
it took more than 5 years for us to get World Trade Center
cleaned up and stuff?
Yeah,
well, for sure. Yeah, how long would it take for everything to be cleaned up in that route and whatnot? 5 years may be too soon. Maybe they will focus on some more populated areas, and maybe certain parts of the city become just slums and abandoned, and other parts don't. Maybe it's too weird to think. Again, it's definitely one of those moments you don't want to overthink.
Right.
Just because when everybody gets snapped back into reality, and this is something we're joking about.
Snap back to reality.
Oh,
there goes gravity. Sorry.
I don't like you. But it's one of those things of, so now all of a sudden you have people that's been gone for 5 years coming back, like loved ones looking for their
I'm sorry.
So you got loved ones being like going back to their exes and realizing like, hey, they moved on or they got remarried.
Yeah, 5 years. Hey, I fell in love with this person because we took solace in each other's arms.
The fact that you lost a loved one, I lost a loved one. Hey, like. It's interesting for they come back. Oh, hi, Steve. Meet Mark. Like, you have the weirdness of like your younger sister is now your older sister.
True.
Like, depending where it's at, but my little sister's 4 years younger than me. Now she's 1 year older than you. Ha ha ha. So there's just some weirdness that makes sense if you don't think about it.
At the end of the day, you just look at it and you see the TLC History Channel guy with the hair that just goes, comics.
So there is that. But they do do a good job of spelling out, hey, this is the end of the movie. This is the end of this
branch.
Not even phase. Because I know they do phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're calling this phase 4. But man, this is really not phase 4. This is like chapter 2, phase 1. Because that's the next questions of like, well, before we go that far, do a good job wrapping everything up and say, hey, there's really not much questions left to ask.
Right.
There's a couple plot holes to look at they do the whole, you don't want to interact with your past self, and Nebula kills old Nebula.
Oh, yeah.
Like, doesn't even mess around with it. other plot holes of like everybody gets to wield the Infinity Gauntlet, everybody gets to touch a stone at some point.
Right.
Like they made such a big deal of Guardians of the Galaxy of like one stone by a half god is like maybe he has to join with the other members of Guardians to keep from
Blowing
evaporating.
up. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like Spider-Man's got the whole gauntlet going, "What's up, guys?" Wee! So it dampens the power. Why snapping?
I don't know.
Why must you? Why
One hand clapping doesn't seem as cool.
Or you just think about it. Just be like, boop, done. But it went from metaphor to like an actual like all I could do is with a snap of my fingers and half of everything's gone. Now apparently snapping is the key fob to work the stones. Like you have
Beep,
to
beep.
snap them. Like it snap on, snap off, snap on, snap off. Peter Parker, poof. Like so. So why snapping has to be the means to activate the stones? That to me that was just silly and weird. And I thought about that. I'm like, couldn't you just? Because I'm not gonna lie, I actually thought a spoiler for me was that when everybody was saying, "Hey, if you go on Google and type Thanos, there's a little icon that it shows in Thanos. If you click it once, it snaps, and half of your text goes away. If you click again, it closes its fist with a green symbol, and all your stuff reverts." To me, I was like, well, that's a spoiler. That's an unintentional spoiler.
Oh.
Everything coming back. But I thought, so instead of snapping, he would close his fist or wiggle his nose and his ears or something. I don't know, but...
Suddenly he's Sabrina?
Like, sure. Doorbell. Anyway, don't get me on Salem. I love Salem. But... So why snapping? Like it went from a trope or like a hey, I could get rid of the world with a snap of my fingers to the only way these stones work now is if you snap your fingers.
That's
like it was
good
weird.
call.
I was just like, it's a little weird. And I thought about that right away. I was looking at it like, because that became the MacGuffin.
Yeah.
That became the don't let him snap.
Right.
Like, oh shit, didn't mean to snap on you. Like
Right.
It got weird where like now it became and I get, because it's a movie, so how do you represent him using the stones? Him snapping his fingers to use the stones. Otherwise, all he had to do is close his eyes and go, poof, y'all gone, bye. So it's just weird, I guess. I don't know. To me, that was one of those things. But anyway.
As we've tangented.
As I do. They do a good job of wrapping everything up. Hey, your main story characters are done. So Hulk is now Brainy Hulk, which is the OP version of Hulk now. Now he's super strong and super powerful. They did a funny job with him, like trying to get riled up of like, this is
Everyone say
overkill.
green.
That was funny. I've seen those awkward photos. Like they don't want me, just give him the damn phone. So, but they made him like the powerhouse. He becomes overpowered. That's a version of Hulk that is really highly powered. So again, let's wrap up real quick on this part. So you have your main Avengers. So obviously you have Natasha and Clint, which you were a little annoyed I called.
Yeah, only because I saw it before. Let's precursor this. I saw this before Dusty Red did.
Yes.
So I knew going in, and I did ask him. I was just like, "Who do you think is going to die?" And
I called Tony.
You called Tony and Tasha, and I was just like, "Why Tasha and Natasha?" And he said, well, it just makes sense. And obviously going in knowing what happens, it still bugged me just because she was one of the female first Avengers.
Yes.
She was part of the first Avengers. She was a strong female character, and she obviously represented something that some of the other characters lacked, which was
leadership skills. And
yeah.
So with her biting a bullet like that, doesn't it make her a stronger character?
I can't say no, but at the same time, I still would have liked to have seen her. She had the most desire to see her family survive, and
but they do.
I know, but as someone who has also been put in a position where she has to make the sacrificial move
for a LARP,
I will
not for real
for LARP.
Let's
yes,
make it clear
for LARP. I will always make the sacrificial move. It's part of my character,
but it's also strong character traits. It's one of those things because ultimately, like when they got split, I saw it too. I was like, oh, this is where one of them dies. And I had the feeling there Clint isn't going to go just because they had started the movie with
him
family.
as a family.
So they set that precedence from the get-go.
Right.
Of, hey, he's a family man. They could all come back. It only makes sense for Natasha to bite the bullet. It also makes sense for Natasha because, A, she doesn't have a family. She doesn't have anybody. She's pretty much alone. You want to go with the side stuff of she doesn't want to do any more movies of this, like any more Avengers. She's already got her next Avenger movie coming out, but that's pretty much it for her.
Yeah.
Not even Avenger movie.
It's her own
Black
standalone,
Widow.
yeah.
But she's kind of done too. That's the thing we forget sometimes and maybe that's the spoilers within the spoiler of
the actors get tired of playing.
The actors are done. Well, you said Chris Evans himself wants to be behind the scenes more.
Right.
Which is exciting. I'm excited to see that because you'll be able to see a Captain America movie with him at the helm, with him going, "Hey, I played this role and I know what people like, and try this, try these camera views. This is what works. More focus on the ass because America loves the ass." Like, but it's good to have that, and it's good as a person, as Chris Evans as a person, to learn these skills,
right?
Directing and acting, and to be a full person because of this. To him to direct future generations of this. I mean, he's been at this for what, 9 years? When's the last of the
11 years?
No, when the first Captain came out. Because the thing, we say 11, but
it's Iron Man would have been 11. So probably 9 or 10 years. So
you grow as a person.
So on that topic, as far as Captain America, how did you feel when he was able to grab Mjolnir?
Oh, that's everybody's moment. Like I went from half chub to like full because that whole scene was a fanfare.
Oh, fanfare.
There was a fanfare. That was the, hey, thank you for sitting through the last hour and a half of like.
Oh, at that point, probably 2 hours.
Well, thanks for sitting through the last 2 hours of us building the story, and it's a good story. But when you go to see a comic book movie, you want the action.
A little bit more action.
Yeah, nobody really.
And there wasn't really much action up until that point. There wasn't any fighting, really.
Yeah, there's a lot of like engagement and stuff going on.
It's a time heist.
It's a time heist, which is a reference to, I think, a Doctor Who thing too, by the way. But anyway, but it's a case of like it was building up to this, which is fine. The last hour was definitely, hey, we're giving you everything that you guys want. Because even in the Thanos fight, the original Thanos fight in Infinity Wars was pulled punches.
Yeah.
It was part of the team doing this, part of the team doing that. It wasn't the full unleashed force.
It wasn't Tony, Captain, and Thor fighting
Everybody
together.
was doing random things.
Right.
This was everybody's together. The two words that everybody's been waiting for 11 years of Avengers Assemble finally get uttered.
Right.
They were never uttered before. They got teased at the end of the Age of Ultron trailer where he's like Avengers and he like looks at the camera, wink, I was gonna say it
but now they say it as the spinny yellow circles are happening and
Doctor Strange
everybody comes out
and Howard the Duck makes a miniature cameo in a lower corner of the screen. Really look for him. But so here's your fan service. Here's everything that you guys been waiting for. This is not an isolated, like, well, not isolated. It's not a world fight where you're looking at 3 different screens.
Right.
This is everybody is at one location at one time. Because that was the trick. Ultimately, let's break the movie down. Ultimately, the last 2 movies, Infinity War and Endgame, was little else but a reason to get everybody in the same place at the same time for an epic fight without Thanos being OP. Because you can't stop Thanos when he's got the gauntlet.
True.
Even in the comics, like, you need other crazy BS powers to do it. But
he doesn't have the gauntlet. He's trying to get the gauntlet.
This is one of the few times where you get to square up Thanos at his
Titan and his
power.
Children of Titan,
his natural powers,
children of Thanos.
Right, children of Thanos and Thanos without the gauntlet, without all the other MacGuffins. Straight up, superheroes on supervillains. 3, 2, 1, go.
Right.
Because even when your MacGuffin of Captain Marvel rolls in, that's basically when the gauntlet's already running around doing its thing.
They're trying to get it taken care of and off the field.
So she comes in, does her thing, because you even said, like, there's a little pandering, and she came in as a super MacGuffin to destroy the ship. I think it was perfect. She did her thing. She didn't mess with the fight too much. She went in there, and she went toe-to-toe with Thanos, and Thanos managed to grab the Power Stone and punch her across the field.
Uppercut her with the fucking Power Stone.
And again, it goes back to now they're trying to keep him from snapping. Okay, that's weird. But so yeah, ultimately it was a big setup to get everything in one place at one time to get the big payoff. And it was a big payoff. So everything is explained. Yeah. Again, so you had Clint and Natasha. Natasha dies, and
I'm glad they did it the way they did. Because that's classic. Absolutely the way it would go.
And they would have both fought for self-sacrifice. Like, because they're both that way. And Natasha going makes more sense because, A, you got the family ties with Clint, and B, you got the strong female role. And that's actually an argument right now online because, you know, the internet's a wonderful place full of creative and
trollish people?
No, I was going to say troll. I'm trying to be positive here.
Oh, okay.
You got a lot of intelligent people who are willing to express their views on a movie or a topic in a constructive manner. Are you
mansplaining me trolls right now?
No, I'm saying in a constructive manner. This is all constructive. Everybody's being totally constructive.
Excuse me while I beat my co-host off screen.
I mean...
Off mic.
Yeah, I don't know. Turn the screen away. We had to close the windows because the kids are screaming. No, but yeah, I agree with you. Yes, there's the trolls out there that are... Well, no, I don't want to say trolls, though, actually. Because there are people that are definitely in the hard edge of going... It's just people killing off a female character. It's males throwing their weight around and killing off a strong female character.
Huh.
That's one way some people... I've seen it being like that.
I don't read comments. I'm smart.
You don't read comments past, like, the fifth one. The first couple ones, like, okay, that's interesting. And then by the time you start scrolling down, it's like, can you get any more visceral? Like, stop it. No, but so there are some people who are like, oh, she shouldn't have to die. Her sacrifice was just guys killing her off and blah, blah, blah. I don't buy into that. I think it was a strong female character that doesn't have much of a story left.
Right.
There's not much to do with her. Most of her interesting points were already done in previous stuff where she is an assassin, where she is this.
Right.
They did tease a little bit of... she's the daughter of, Nikolai?
I think it was Ivan.
Daughter of Ivan? Yeah, daughter of Ivan. So they could have used that for future movies to figure out who Ivan was and go from there. Like, that could have been interesting. Maybe they'll do it with their standalone movie.
Maybe.
But ultimately, I mean, it makes sense to kill her off. Again, maybe ScarJo was kind of done too. She's got her one coming up and her contract's done. So she's kind of done there. I think, isn't Hawkeye supposed to get his own TV show or his own series or something? Loki's getting his, I know that.
Loki's getting his own, and obviously he's alive. Ultimately...
He's alive twice.
Post...
Let's focus on the five.
Okay.
Let's still focus on those five. Because we had, or the main. So you had Clint, he's all set. He's got his family. He used the term Hawkeye for the first time for his daughter. Right. Maybe she grows up and becomes the next Hawkeye.
She might.
So that's future
setup.
You then have Black Widow, she's gone.
Yep.
Okay. Captain America, solid ending
now,
for him.
Old, new captain.
Younger, the new captain, minority. So you grab into that fan base. He's established, so you got that as well. You got Bucky to roll with him, which could be fun. He's signed on for a couple more movies.
I think 4.
4 more movies, so he's good. Tony, done. His contract's expired. You may see some sort of callbacks or something, or some flash or some other footage used to throw into a movie. And, you know, Robert Downey's making $70 million or something off these movies anyway, so he's good. Yeah. He's set. He's done. He's out. He did his 11 years. He did his time. Who else we have in that? Hulk, who right now, realistically, is so CGI'd. If they keep Intelligent Hulk, he can just make his cameos. Yeah. And you don't need Mark Ruffalo too much. He comes in, puts on his suit. He serves as,
Zordon, I'm Power Ranger character.
Zardon. I think he's Zardon. Zardoz is with... It is Zordon. Yeah, it's Zordon. Because Zardoz is with... that is a bad movie. I can't believe I'm going this way. This is a hard tangent. It is with Sean Connery from the 70s.
Oh no. Okay. No, we're not going any further. Yeah. Stop it. I know which one you're talking about. Okay. So
we will not become one mind.
But, okay, so if you've got Hulk, Hulk...
CGI'd.
Yeah, CGI'd. Mark Ruffalo
comes
Bruce
in,
Banner, does
his make.
But he's just, he becomes, to give a better correlation, he becomes Beast for X-Men. He's just a brain and behind-the-scenes kind of guy.
He becomes, in a way, a MacGuffin. Yeah. In his own right. Hey, how do we figure this out? Well, I know this, I know that. He maybe comes in, smashes some stuff, and pieces out. I don't
I don't
see
even
any.
think he comes in and smash. I mean, you saw how like, I think this is gratuitous. I don't like this.
I could see him showing up in a cameo to help out with something, but other than that, he's cameo material at best.
Yeah.
Then we have the obvious Crims Hemsworth that is signed up for a little bit. We
already got as Guardians of the Galaxy.
As Guardians of the Galaxy, if they go that route. But obviously, the Guardians of the Galaxy, which looks like it's going to be in Phase 4.
Right.
Which ought to be very interesting, because now
you have the Gamora. Like, he's got to go fight. Gamora's not gone, but
she disappeared.
She's she's gone from the fight. Obviously, you see Peter Quill like pining for her, and he's got to go woo her again.
Like I watch a little bit of Star Trek, and if I'm gonna fawn over a green girl, it's probably gonna be Gamora.
Right. So he's got to go find her again, and he's got to woo her with his pelvic. Pelvic magistry or whatever they call it.
I've got that ability. Pelvic magistry. Is that like a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition? I know it is.
For the first movie.
I know. I'm teasing.
So, and then you've got like the buddy cop kind of thing between Quill and Thor.
Which is pretty funny.
And
are you sounding like the God Man?
Thor is kind of, I would say, my con of the movie. I didn't care. Like, I liked the redemption story that Thor played, but you didn't need to make him look like Santa.
And I would argue in reverse, because I think, honestly, Thor was probably my favorite redemption story. Of Thor went from... Maybe not the Santa suit, like because obviously people are also ranting and raving about fat shaming and everything about that too.
You don't have to have abs to be worthy,
right? And it's a case of I get what they're trying to do,
but he had a cool mom. He had a cool mom moment. Like Tony had a cool dad moment.
Well, Tony had a really good moment there. But we'll focus. Let's focus on Thor before we get too out of the way. We still got a few minutes left on this. So we have Thor that is clearly geared up is set up for failure. Like he killed Thanos. He did his thing and is now living with the regret of not originally aiming for the head.
Right.
He's clearly living with the regrets of half the people dying. Like already he dealt with more than half of his population dying. Who knows how many more of that half?
Yeah.
So he got like 1/3 or something at that point, where that's all he's got left.
Small
is
Maine village.
Yeah, he's got a little. It's not Maine. It's in Scandinavia.
Oh,
and that's the thing too. Is there's a point in.
Oh, because they get on the plane, they get on the spaceship and fly.
But I can't remember if it was
truck.
Dark World or no, I think it was Dark World. Where his dad is Odin, comes up and said when they're in Scandinavia.
Oh, that's not Dark World. That's Ragnarok.
Where he goes. We can make this Asgard.
Yes.
They're in.
That's
the area that they use supposedly.
Okay.
I had to research that a little bit because I was like, wait a second, why is that? Yeah. So it's the area that they use supposedly. So it makes sense that they're out there and they're doing their own thing and they're living their life that way, which is fine. And it's fitting that they go that story arc of, hey, they've lost most of the race already because of the initial fight.
Right.
Now they lost 50% of that.
Right.
Potentially. Now, Thor's is a wreck.
Yeah.
And you mixed feelings of, like, they didn't have to give him the fat suit. They didn't have to make him look tubby like that. At the same time, they're playing on the trope of... Because you have to think of some of the younger audiences, too. Of, like, hey, he's not doing well. Like, he's drinking. He's just slumming it up. He's playing Fortnite. They're not... He's, like... To me, I thought it was funny when he's making threats to a kid,
right?
On a video game thing. Like to me, that's the lowest of the low. If you're threatening to go beat up a kid, like,
hey, he was insulting.
Yeah, I know he deserves it.
Yeah,
he's rock face. But it gives you an idea. Like, this is how low he sunk. He's insulting kids. He's sitting there drinking beer. He's down in the dumps. So yeah, they've played that trope hard.
Yeah.
Making him look like the dude is pretty funny. That was a good callback by Tony. And then, yeah, doing the mother-son arc on that, and the fact that mom recognized him for being future
Thor,
which is really cool. To be like, hey, I get it. They kind of MacGuffin that real quick. Not even MacGuffin, but they like brushed that over rather than being like trying to explain he's from the future or anything else. She's like
going, I was raised by witches,
right? Like, no, you can't fool me. Continue. That just hand waved.
Oh,
all
Mom,
over BS.
hey, nope. You're not telling me what happens today. This is about you, not about me.
And this is very much also every mom. Like, anybody who's had a mom, which is, I don't know, all of us, for the most part, but had a mother figure in their life.
Right.
That's like, you can't fool me.
Yeah.
Like, I saw you in diapers. I saw you in this. I've raised you. I've seen you at your worst. Like, you're not going to fool me. Just tell me what's up. So they did a really good job at that. And this is obviously picking out the nuances of the scene, which is why I like it so much. There's definitely moments where Mom will look and go, you can't bullshit me.
Right.
Like, I don't care where you're from the future, from the past. Quit
You're
bullshitting
still my
me.
son.
I know you. Continue. So that was really cool. They played that really well. And then for him to be on the final fight in his full dad bod with the his armor fitting kind of funnily.
And
his top knot and everything else.
Yeah.
But he looked like a mess. But that, to me, emphasized the whole don't be who you're supposed to be who you are.
Right.
He's a hot mess.
He was still worthy, though.
He was still worthy, but he's still a hot mess. Well,
Yeah.
he was worthy to wield Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. But, like, he was a hot mess. And he went, you know what? I'm going to fight like this. This is who I am right now. Because they could have done a montage where he's trying to burn out the way.
Right.
But no, he went out there as a hot mess and went, hey, this is who I am. I'm going to deal with this. Like,
Yep.
I've got important things to do right now. So they did a really cool job of, you know, some people are saying, oh, it's fat shaming, this and this. And to me, I saw it, and maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm the skinny kid and could look always for the positivity here. But look and go, you are who you are. Rock what you got. Like, make improvements always. Like what we always say on here. Like, you do as good as you can or do as best as you can until you learn how to do better.
Right.
Then you do better until you learn how to do better than that. So it seemed like that case was a very much this is as good as he could get. This is the better he could be. So he did it.
Right.
So he's dual wielding an axe and a hammer and wrecking faces and like.
No. You take the small one.
You take the small one. That was, and obviously Captain being worthy. They hinted at that with
In old Age of Ultron.
Not Age of Ultron. No, it's Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron. They're all hanging out and drinking beers and hanging out.
And he wiggles
they're all
the
trying to pick up Mjolnir, and
Now-
Captain's the only one that makes it wiggle.
Now I heard the theory that Captain felt that he could lift it and opted not to not cause a stir. So little grab and felt it shift and went, whoop, I'm gonna let it go, and just made it wiggle. Which is why, obviously, he's like, I knew it!
Right, exactly.
Which is like, I knew you were worthy. So.
And since I saw it opening night, there was a cheering and clapping and
that's-
whooping and hollering
and that's
when that
10
happened.
years of
Yeah.
people just like... Because that's also a big deal in the comics, where Captain America eventually...
Now, see, my big playback for the comics was actually when, a couple of years ago, there was all the hubbub about him going, or Captain going Hail Hydra.
Yep.
And the
That's a
throwback
legit
of the
storyline.
actual freaking scene of him in the elevator, again, a movie throwback to Winter Soldier, and them sitting there, and he's just like, the scepter's gonna go with me. It's okay. Hail Hydra.
Yeah.
We're out.
And then the little throwback to that, too. So,
Right. And then him having to fight himself and
is
him
funny.
being like, I can do this all day. Yeah,
Yeah, I get it.
fuck you. This is what I sound like?
Yeah, you definitely
God,
had
no
that
wonder
moment.
people hate me.
Nope. So we have your basic characters there then. Obviously, Tony's gone. Morgan Stark will be interesting to see if they're going to play the super long con. Because you can see down the road, she ends up getting Tony's suit, kind of a Metroid, Return of Samus type thing, where she stumbles into Dad's suit and becomes the next hero.
Right.
Even now, at this age, you give her 10 years, she'll be 14.
Yeah.
She could play that. It's still a little young, so you're looking at 15 years, so she's like 19. So she's, an adult, barely. 18, I guess you want to say, is an adult. So she's barely an adult, and she could go that
Being
route.
raised by Uncle Parker.
Being raised by Uncle Parker, probably. I could see that being that'd be a kind of a neat relationship, where Peter needed the dad and leaned on Tony as a dad, and now turns around and Peter
Is the
kind of
dad
becomes
for-
not so much the dad, but Peter becomes, because he's still young,
Yeah.
but becomes an uncle or older brother figure where he visits Pepper and Morgan and
Happy.
kind of just visits them and just like, hey, talks about her dad a little bit and hangs out and stuff. So that'd be an interesting arc to see, like a brother-sister relationship there. And he's got her by a few years. So, because that's the other thing is Peter didn't age for the 5 years.
That's true.
He dusted and came back, and he's still the same age, whereas everybody else aged. So that would be interesting to see. That kind of relationship would be kind of cool. Maybe something in
the
phase
second
4.
Phase 4.
They do a little bit where Uncle Peter comes in and say hi to Morgan and Pepper feeds him information because it depends what she does.
Right.
Do they want to have her in any of that, even in cameos? And she's got the Stark base. She knows how to operate all of that stuff.
She's the CEO at that point. Stark
Stark's the
Industries
genius.
still exists.
Right, Stark's the genius, but she's still pretty crafty herself. So it'd be good to see if she goes that route and anything happens with that. What have we got? I mean, obviously, again, we said Thor goes with the Guardians, and so they'll do Volume 3.
Right.
Which I'm more than anything else excited about the soundtrack. Like, I love the soundtracks on that. I did see a little article on, because of Gunn's work in Endgame as well, there's a lot of chunks of Endgame that are set to a soundtrack as well. Because, for those that don't know, they basically, for the Guardians of the Galaxy, set up a soundtrack for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as they're storyboarding, they have soundtracks queued up.
Yep.
So it's a very unique take into, hey, how are we doing this movie? And they're picking a soundtrack to go with.
It's almost a musical type of mentality.
Like, we're going that route.
Soundtrack music.
They did that with Endgame.
Yeah.
There's certain parts and certain songs that are playing that tie to those scenes. And go look it up. Go look at YouTube, and I'm sure you can look up soundtrack Endgame, and it'll give you some of the stuff where, as certain characters are doing things and certain songs are playing, are tying into those themes that are fitting for the movie, that are fitting for what is going on. So it's really cool that you can see James Gunn's influence on that aspect of, no, let music tie into this. Let these important scenes have a musical resonation as well. So I'm a big music guy, so I like seeing those correlations between a visual medium tying into an audio medium, and the two blending seamlessly, blending in to fill that, again, happy, Mr. Blue Sky opening up. You wouldn't think this big intergalactic BS fight is this super happy, cheery.
Right.
But between the colors and between the fight scene and little Groot dancing, it's oddly fitting and it's super satisfying. Super satisfying. So they do a good job with that. And so obviously you got Captain that's aged, gives off to Sam, who's going to be the new captain. I could possibly see a story arc with that if they continue with the brainwashed Bucky and he goes Hail Hydra. He ends up jacking the suit and stealing Captain America, and he becomes the brainwashed Captain America. And the comic and movie kind of intertwining, where Bucky goes back in the brainwashed Bucky mode with Captain America's gear, and now he's the brainwashed Captain America.
Maybe.
You could see something like that if he wants to keep doing the movies. You could definitely see. Now, obviously, I'm very curious about Red Skull.
Well, he's trapped.
He is?
At least from what I understand,
The
that's
stone was
what
used
the
in
stone.
return.
But he's still stuck on Volmir.
Why? Wouldn't that
Because
break?
because the stone still exists. The stones could still be found again. Like, that's the whole thing. It's just like the Dragon Balls. Like, it could still be assembled again.
But did the stones get destroyed?
No,
they got brought back, but then they got destroyed. Again, wibbly wobbly timey-wimey. So, if they got destroyed, is Red Skull going to come back? That's one of those things that they could kind of tease in some sort of version of Red Skull coming back, who's been eternal for whatever years, because he's floaty hellscape on Volmir. So you wonder if that's an option to bring back as a villain. Do you have Red Skull lurking in the back?
Okay.
Like I said, wibbly wobbly timey-wimey, so here we go.
Ultimately, on my ending statement for this
We're cutting it so soon. It's only been like an hour. Anyway.
Ultimately, my friend Mitch from The Geek Awakening said it best. We both happened to see the movie opening night, and we were messaging back and forth at midnight after the movie. He ultimately summed it up. The best I've heard this whole time is Avengers Endgame was Marvel Universe's, or the MCU's, love letter for the last 11 years.
100%.
And I kind of said it on Grey Muzzle Geekery at Facebook, where our future geeks of our future geek generations we kind of have our, I walked up 15 miles, you know, I walked to school 15 miles in the snow, uphill both ways. We waited 11 years to see the penultimate end game of the movie.
All of these put together, and it came to here is the culmination of everything that we've done, and everything that you cheered for and cried over, and everything that you guys discussed for the last 11 years.
Right. Now comes to fruition, and future geeks will never have to go through and be like, wait, you had to wait a year for that satisfaction? No, we had to wait 11 years for that satisfaction. Right. And it was worth it. I'm glad I got to see it when I saw it. Nothing was spoiled for me.
You got lucky and avoided trailers even.
And to kind of sidetrack just a little bit off of that, there were moments in the movie that they're not ruined because I saw the trailer or would have seen the trailers, but they're definitely more surprised. Like, I hadn't seen that they all got cool new time suits.
Oh, the white suits?
The white suits. Really like, cool. That wasn't ruined for me because I hadn't seen the trailers. Whereas if you see the trailers, you go, oh, okay, they got new costume changes. Great. Right. You have nothing to context it to with the trailers.
I don't know. They kind of felt like Armageddon where they're all walking into the
space slow motion. Because I did not see any trailers, I had complete fresh vulnerability when I walked into the theater and saw it.
Anything that you saw was new.
And I was like, oh, that's awesome. I had a little extra moments of coolness because I did not see the trailers. Everything else, again, it's people from now on, once Endgame comes out on DVD or whatever, they will be able to essentially stream or watch or binge
a week, month.
11 years worth of stuff in, you know, if you're really gung-ho on it, like 16 days or 3 days depending, but sure, you could watch all of them and be done with it and get that satisfaction in such a shorter amount of time than 11 years.
And that's something that we talked about a little bit too, of where we talk about holes in geekdom. Like, I'm still bad about Harry Potter.
Right.
I have not seen a good chunk of Harry Potters. I haven't caught a whole bunch of Harry Potter. And there's a level of it that may be, I don't say ruined, but I'm not going to have that same impact. Or it's not going to have the same impact on me, where I'm going to be able to watch what a lot of Harry Potter fans went through for 7, 8, 9 years of stories.
Right.
Where I'm just going to sit down, watch them all, and be like, cool, saw it all in a month, and you'll be sitting there with your jaw agape going, so what attachment did you get to these characters? And you might have future geeks that not have those attachments.
Yeah.
That may not feel the same way that we do to Tony.
They won't feel the same way.
I mean, well, in fairness, a good parent will only allow their child to watch a movie on their birthday for 11 years. No, or not 22 years, but you allow like birthday and then mid-birthday.
So then do you have this is completely side tangent, but did you have, like, instead of the kids going and seeing the rated NC-17 movies at their friend's house as my mom won't let me watch Endgame for another year. Hey, if you come to Frankie's house, I'll let you watch Endgame.
Jeez.
Sorry.
No, I mean, that'd be weird. A bunch of boys getting together. Like, what are we doing? We're watching movies. What? Don't worry, Ma. It's Infinity War. It's like, how dare you?
Yeah. Evil.
It'd be
we don't let those movies in our house.
So let's wrap up with the, what do you think Phase 4 is going to do? What do you think we're going to Phase 4?
Smaller vision.
So you think they're going to, because you obviously it's going to be difficult to...
Where
do you go from here?
You don't get the Thanos buildup. You don't get the ultimate...
Unless they restart. Evil. Like, because, I mean, obviously the next one, Galacticus? Like, he's the World Eater. Like, do you get something like that? Do you get... I mean, obviously, with Fox being under the umbrella, maybe we'll get Doctor Doom being a big bad guy for everybody. Maybe we'll get some X-Men bosses, kind of, like X-Men bad guys kind of back into the fold.
Okay.
Maybe we'll see some of that. Maybe we'll see a Spider-Man Wolverine team up. Like, maybe we'll see some of that stuff, which could be really cool.
And those are your more attainable goals than seeing
They're small scale.
Yes, they're small scale.
Because you've gotten so big scale. You've literally gone 50% of all of existence, not just Earth. Because like Captain Marvel says that.
You even have Captain Marvel.
It's just happening on every planet. That
and
Rocket's
not
even like
has Avengers.
Yeah, and Rocket's just like, oh yeah, good point. So yeah, 50% of all life goes poof.
Right.
Like, how do you ramp up from there? And really, you don't. You let it taper, and maybe you start building up.
You reset
again.
back to small scale.
So you go
I agree.
You go
and
to
I
Spider-Man.
think Spider-Man is the best way to do it, is because Spider-Man is ultimately the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Right. Real small, real neighborhood
Still
guy.
Still Queens.
Yeah. So, I mean, that could be your route. You go that route. You dance, obviously, on Guardians 3 being the next big thing, which starts to immediately touch into space stuff, but maybe...
You get Adam Warlock, maybe.
Maybe. Well, that becomes big immediately, which is why it's interesting. Because unless you don't do Adam Warlock, maybe they'll do a Guardians 4, they tease more Adam Warlock behind the scenes, and they spend most of 3 trying to find Gamora.
Right.
I mean, so I'm with you 100% on that. I think they're going to go small scale. I think they're going to refocus and go, okay, maybe try some new directors, maybe try some new visions of doing things and try to scale things back. I mean, obviously they're going to try to introduce X-Men back into the fold now. What's their vision of X-Men? Like, obviously we've gotten used to Fox's vision of X-Men.
Right.
What's their vision? How is Wolverine going to look? Is it going to be huge Jackman again, or is it going to be someone a little bit smaller and,
newer,
a younger guy? They're going to play that route. He's so comically goofy looking with his big pointy mutton chops and big hairdo.
Right.
Do they scale that back? I mean, there's a lot of work they're going to do here. So, ultimately, that's basically going to be the interesting point of what's next. What do you guys think is going to be next? What do you guys feel is going to be the next wave for, air quote, phase 4, but realistically it's going to be season 2 phase 1 or something. I don't know, some new vibe and how it goes. We're happy to hear from whatever you guys want to say. Questions, maybe something related to that. I mean, we'll be happy to expound on stuff for an hour about about more Endgame stuff or more Avengers type thing. At the end of the day, everything's wrapped up with a nice big bow with a couple little side doors open to dance on. Alternate universes with Loki and the Tesseract disappearing.
Right.
Or side characters like Bucky maybe taking more titular roles. And maybe side characters like Hulk becoming more background information MacGuffins and such. So we'll see, man. It's exciting, but we got a long way to go. Disney's making way too much money to stop now.
Yeah, exactly.
So we will end it here. As always, I am Dusty Red.
I am Dusty White.
And we'll see you on the flip side. Bye!
Bye.